Good morning. This is Jason Dean coming live at you again from Film Fanatic headquarters. It is Saturday at about 11:46. Pretty gray day. It was supposed to. The forecast has been, or at least a couple days ago, they were saying the forecast for this weekend was going to be pretty rainy and crappy. Um, but today, so far, it's pretty nice out. Actually, it's pretty clear. It's gray, but it's pretty clear. So it is what it is. But tomorrow, I'm very, very excited. I'm going to be going to see the new Martin Scorsese movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. So I'm very excited about seeing this movie. We're going to go see it. I'm going with a friend. We're going to go see it up in at Flagship Cinema in Waterville, Maine, which is a really awesome theater. I've gone there a couple times to see some movies, and I've been really impressed with that theater. It's a really nice setup. The seating is really comfortable. The sound system is pretty incredible. It's very cool. It's an hour away, but it's kind of worth it. I've gone there a couple of times, and I've been really, really impressed. I think it's probably the best, to a degree, the local theater to see new movies. My favorite theater right now is to go to. I still go to Flagship locally, and that's pretty good. It's gotten better. I really love the Waldo Theater, but they typically show older films. But as far as new releases, I really like the place in Waterville. So I'm very excited about seeing it. I've been wanting to see Killers of the Flower Moon for a couple of years, ever since I first heard about it. I'm a huge Scorsese fan, as well as a huge Leonardo DiCaprio fan. So I think their whole symmetry, or the way they've been able to create this amazingly artistic relationship and just put out all these wonderful movies together in this really cool partnership, has just been pretty amazing and super exciting. Just an amazing body of work. Scorsese alone, but then between DiCaprio and you know and Scorsese, it's just incredible. And it follows the same kind of line in history that Robert De Niro's had with Scorsese, who was also in this film, which I'm very excited to see him in this movie. And he's got even a longer track record with Scorsese, so very excited. And I just, I think it was a day or two ago, I posted a video on Martin Scorsese. I just did a specialty video where I just talked about him as a director, and he's one of my favorites. He's always been one of my favorites, and I talked a lot about his films, and I figured, okay, I wanted to do it because kind of leading up, for what it's worth, leading up to going to see Killers of the Flower Moon, and it's going to be premiering Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon. So check it out if you get a chance. I think it came out pretty well, pretty good, and it represents how I feel, and how much I admire Martin Scorsese. He's always been and continues to be one of my favorite directors of all time. So, and then after I see the movie, I'm definitely going to do a review on it. Whether I do it Sunday night, which I probably won't, but I'll definitely do it on Monday. So stay tuned for that. That will be a big show. So I'm very, very pumped. I try to stay away from reviews a lot of the times, and things like, after I see a movie, especially if after I see a movie in the theater, I will like have a tendency to look up reviews and see what people think, and especially a handful of these guys that I like on YouTube. I'll check out what their reviews are. The general consensus, I've been checking out a little bit of some of the talk of this movie. Generally, it's pretty fantastic, which I kind of you know I kind of felt was probably going to be the case, just because of Scorsese's legacy as a filmmaker, and how everything he does is kind of amazing and wonderful. And he has an amazing track record. So, he's got such a high reputation that, so so very excited about that. So stay tuned for a review for the Killers of the Flower Moon, and check out the show. We'll be premiering tomorrow, I think around noon, for where I talked about or talk about all of Scorsese. One of the things I've come across I've briefly been checking out a couple of little reviews of this movie, Killers of the Flower Moon. One of the things that I hear about it is that it's kind of being described. I think it takes place in the 1920s, and I know kind of what the story is about, but then I don't know at all what it's about, and I'm trying to like keep a lot of the stuff in the mystery in a mysterious realm, so I can go in a little bit more cold, and that's kind of what I've been doing. Usually, when I watch a review, especially if it's something I'm really looking forward to seeing, but I haven't seen yet, I'll watch a little bit of a review, but when I get to a certain point, not even like a spoiler thing, I'll turn it off because I start feeling, oh, it's a little bit too much information. I generally know what it's about, and it's based on true historical events, a real horror story, if you will. But other than that, I don't know too much more about it. So, but one of the things I've heard it being described as it's being described a lot as like a modern western, or a modern take on Western cinema, and that it's a period piece, so it does take place, within arguably 20, 30 years of that period in history of the Wild West. So it does have, kind of coming out of that tail end of that, if you will. So, but I've heard it described as like a really good Western in a lot of ways, amongst many other things. So it's funny when I saw that, I was like, you know what, I love Westerns, and I don't really do enough coverage of them. I've done a couple of films. I've done a couple of John Wayne films, I believe. Mostly post reviews. I know I did do a big review and video on probably my favorite Western of all time, and that is The Unforgiven. And I'm a huge Sergio Leone fan. I love spaghetti westerns. I love a lot of American westerns. I'm probably more into the Italian westerns, but I love all that shit. It's all great. I love the classic John Wayne films. So I am very excited. Some of the movies that I bought for at my big sale at Opera House Video, since I'm talking about Martin Scorsese, one of the movies I bought, which I'm going to do a show on, because I know I did a video post, or not a video post, but I did a formal post review of this film, but I don't believe I've done a video review, and I definitely want to do it because it needs to be done, because it's such an amazing movie. And that is John Wayne's The Searchers. I actually first heard about this movie, and then shortly after I heard about it, I rented it at Opera House Video, and I just picked it up on DVD. This is a really good collection, so I'm really excited to watch this. And the way I heard about this movie was by watching a Martin Scorsese movie, and he said that this was like one of his favorite westerns, if not his favorite western of all time, and his favorite John Wayne movie. And he talked about how brutal this movie is, and how kind of an horrific film this is, especially around John Wayne's character. And so I was like, I really need to see this, and I rented it shortly after, and I was blown away by how amazing this film is. And Scorsese was talking about how this movie was a really big inspiration for him, one of his all-time favorite movies. And he just talked about how John Wayne's character is such a complex, but yet such a dark, kind of monstrous character. And it's pretty true, because there's some there's some pretty gnarly things in this movie, and considering like how old this film is and when it came out, but it's a classic. So I'm looking forward to watching this. I've only seen this once before, and now I own it now, and this is a really good addition. It's got a bunch of special features on here, so very excited to watch that. Um, but when I heard that this film Killers of the Flower Moon was described. It's been described very much as like a western. I was like, you know what? I need to do more reviews on westerns because I love westerns. And so one of the other movies I bought, and again, I've never seen it, and I just can't believe I've never seen it. And I was just completely blown away by this movie, High Plains Drifter. It's directed by Clint Eastwood. Came out in 1973. And oh my God, this movie is just a total masterpiece. I've never seen. I'd heard about this movie, and I don't think I'd ever actually seen it. I've seen like Pale Rider, and a lot of all of his work with Sergio Leone. This is an American movie. He directed this, and this was all like an original American production. And I believe that this was his second film that he directed. Um, and it stars Clint Eastwood, of course, Verna Bloom, Mariana Hill, Billy Curtis, and Jeffrey Lewis and Jack Ging. The first thing I thought about when I watched this film is they don't make movies like this. Like brutal violence. There are scenes of rape. One of the main characters, played by Clint Eastwood, is kind of a monster, in a lot of ways. He's like so incredibly badass, and it's at one point you're kind of like repelled and disgusted by him, but then you kind of have empathy towards him. I found. I found I found after I kind of got into the movie, there were certain things in the beginning where I was just like, oh my God, like this is the guy you're gonna kind of have empathy towards, and then I started to kind of get into his character, so it was really complex because he's not a hero, even though he does, um, to a degree, assumes that role more of an anti-hero. He's really a gun for hire, but my God, this movie is amazing. Like they truly don't make movies like this. I don't think this movie could be made today because of the politically correct climate that we currently live in, where I see that things have gotten increasingly more conservative about things. Like recently, I just saw a post on stupid Facebook where a couple of friends and that I know, or they're more like acquaintances, but a couple people I actually know pretty well. Um, One person was commenting on their travels around town, and they were talking about Halloween, and this one person was saying how she loves this time of year. She loves the season. She loves October. She likes the fall foliage. She loves the idea of Halloween. She loves the season. But then she was commenting on how she drove by a couple of houses, and some people had some really kind of gory Halloween decorations, and pretty horror based. There were more horror based uh, displays, and that she basically was offended, and that it was kind of disgusting, and I was just like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. I mean, are you like, I just couldn't believe it. I just couldn't believe it, and it made me mad and angry. And I'm like, we need to like, everything needs to be sanitized, and everything needs to be censored. Everybody's feelings these days get hurt. We're all like victims of trauma. We all want to self diagnose ourselves. All of these things in society constantly are triggers, and they send us off. And I'm oh so important. Oh, such an important person, and I need to call out these things. And it's just like, God Almighty. And I was gonna comment. I did comment, and then I was just like deleting. I deleted it, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna unfriend this person because this is just bullshit. And I'm like, what is this? Like, we're about the same age or so, and I'm like, are you serious? Like, you're taking the fun aspect out of fucking Halloween, and suddenly we can't have quote unquote scary things when it's a celebration of horror and fantasy. And I'm just like, you got to be kidding me. And it's just like, I can't believe people like this still exist. And I think that that is part of the climate we live in now, where what I was saying a few minutes ago, a movie like this could not be fucking made today. I don't think it would. I don't think it could. Because it's not politically correct. It's a pretty graphic, violent movie. And it's a work of fiction. It's a work of fiction. And that being said, that time of our history as a country, as a nation, was one of the most violent, vile times in our history, and I feel this is an accurate portrayal of what life was probably like then. There was no morality, there were no laws, there was no ethics. It was about survival, and that was it. And if anything, it's I think a pretty accurate portrayal. But anyway, so I've heard people say, throughout the years, in kind of within this climate, where they won't watch these movies, they won't watch John Wayne movies, they won't acknowledge him as being an actor because he was a racist, you know homophobic pig and all this stuff, so they won't watch any of his films. And I'm just like, you know, if you're going to take that stance against a certain film, like say The Searchers, for instance, and you're going to be like, essentially stopping short of saying, well, that movie should be banned, and I'm just like, okay, you want to, you want to talk about, living in this free society, but yet you're calling for censorship, and that's completely un-American. Go fuck yourself. And it's art, and it's just awful. And so, getting back to my point, I can't reiterate it enough. I don't think a movie like this could be made today. But I never saw this movie. I had heard about this movie, and I watched this the other night. I finished it last night, and I thought maybe I had seen it before, but I never did. I never have, and it's amazing. And the cinematography is just incredible. The direction is just incredible. There's certain scenes in this film where there's like these long panning shots that just go on for like a long time, and it seems like they're all like kind of like one take, and it's amazing. It reminds me of like one of the classic movies that really utilizes that whole thing is Touch of Evil by Orson Welles. The whole opening sequence with Charlton Heston is just incredible. And a more recent film that really utilizes those kinds of things is Birdman with Michael Keaton. Also, another film that did that really, really well is, I believe, The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio. Truly a lost art form, and very technically incredibly hard to do because of the precision that that I'm sure that it involves to be able to create that tension with one continuous shot. High Plains Drifter has two giant sequences in the movie where that's a thing, and the opening sequence for this film is just amazing. And the other thing is, it's like testimony by how incredible Clint Eastwood is as a director, especially in his early part of his career, where he there's no dialogue whatsoever. There's literally, basically it's like a silent movie the first 25 minutes or 20 minutes of this film. There's music. The music is incredible, but there's no dialogue, and but yet you're getting all of this information. You're getting introduced to the High Plains Drifter, played by Clint Eastwood, And not only did he direct this movie, but he stars in this film, which is amazing. I don't like. To me, that is so mystifying on how directors do that, and they're such great actors too, and how they can direct themselves while being in front of the camera and behind the camera at the same time. Like, I can't fathom how that's done. Um, but the whole opening sequence to this film, to this movie, is there's no dialogue, but yet I feel like you're getting all of this information. You're getting all of this backstory of who his character is and who these townspeople are. And it's amazing. And to me, it's just like, this is how you direct a film. This is how you tell a story. And it's all about the pacing. Like, it's all about the pacing. And it's all about kind of less is more. You know, it goes back to that whole way of thinking about things. And I've always been a fan of that, you know, it's when it comes to music and film and just art. And the action sequences in this film are just great. It's a pretty brutal movie. It's very violent. The cinematography is breathtaking. The music is just incredible. The direction is just incredible. The story is really, really great. He plays this gunman who is this killer, and he is essentially, you know, hired or coerced to protect this small little town from these from this like group of other gunmen that are going to be coming into the town to basically take over and you know, go on this rampage. And he's like hired and coerced and basically given keys to the town to protect the town. And it's amazing. It's an amazing movie. And you know, again, this is a DVD copy, but the quality of this DVD is really, really awesome. Pretty happy with this, and I got this. I got this at. This was one of the movies I bought at Opera House Video. But God, what an amazing film! And I kick myself for never seeing this movie. One of the best Clint Eastwood movies that I've ever seen, and so it's such a badass movie too. On top of it being a really interesting story, it's just such a badass movie. It's just totally badass, and just everything about it from top to bottom. You know, this really shows, you know, back in the day what Clint Eastwood was capable of as a filmmaker and as an actor, but especially as a director. Like, serious filmmaker. But amazing movie, 1973. I highly, highly recommend this. This would be pretty awesome to eventually buy and get on Blu-ray because of the. It's such an epic movie and it's so beautifully shot. So it would be really cool to buy this on Blu-ray. I'm really happy with this copy though. It's a really beautiful edition. You know, so yeah, High Plains Drifter, 1973. Again, I'll say it again. They don't make movies like this, and I don't believe a movie like this could be made today. So this is Jason Dean. Thanks again, and we will see you next time. Peace.